This is Ari. Her favorite car is a Toyota Camry. A couple weeks ago, talking new car advice, she looked at me, defeated, and said, I just want a car that's safe. I was happy to explain that thankfully, today, given the legislations, regulations, and consumer expectations that dictate automotive design, it's nearly impossible for a manufacturer to sell a car that won't keep you safe. That's a wonderful truth to be able to share with her, but I wouldn't have had the chance to do so without the values, policies, and technologies that influence every car on the road today. I'm Duncan Brady, and this is the history of automotive safety. Automobiles in the early days of the industry, like this 1885 Benz patent motor wagon, bear little resemblance to the machines we share the road with today. They were more like mobile motorized benches than cars, and featured little more safety equipment than the carriages that inspired them. By the early 20th century, vehicles were producing more power and carrying more speed than their pre-centennial counterparts, and to the American public, that speed meant danger. Judges routinely held vehicle operators to a higher standard of care than pedestrians, and the precedent was set that drivers were to be held responsible for accidents. Fast forward to the cars of the early 1960s, and we see higher engine output, higher grip levels, and a much faster pace of travel thanks to the interstate highway system, which began construction after the Federal Aid Highway Act in 1956. Mid-century America was a land of safe speed, targeting uneducated pedestrians, poorly designed roads, and bad drivers to make driving safer. That period may have made pedestrians, roads, and drivers safer, but it did little for the safety of the automobile itself. That all changed with a lawyer named Ralph Nader. Nader published a book in 1965 called Unsafe at Any Speed, in which he slams the American car industry for the lack of attention paid to building safe cars. He introduces the book with the Chevrolet Corvair. Nader focused his criticism of the Corvair on its rear suspension. The car's swing axle suspension design had a tendency for dangerous oversteer in extreme handling conditions. Here you can see the Corvair's rear suspension before and after its redesign in 1965. Unsafe at Any Speed revealed that Chevrolet knew about the design's potential problems and declined to reinforce the vehicle with a front anti-roll bar for cost reasons. The young lawyer criticized the mantra that had defined automotive safety for decades: engineering, enforcement, and education, pointing out that manufacturers were not taking enough responsibility for building cars capable of surviving a crash. Nader's book became a national bestseller and signaled a fundamental change in the safety mindset of the American car industry. The shift was from a period of control at speed to one of crash-worthiness, centered around the basic acknowledgement that cars are going to crash, and that manufacturers need to build vehicles that can protect their occupants in the event of a collision. That change is reflected pretty clearly in the government and corporate response to the revelatory content of Nader's book. Its content, combined with rising vehicle casualty rates, prompted Senate hearings which resulted in the creation of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which regulates vehicle safety and efficiency to this day. The post-Nader era brought technologies focus on mitigating the results of an accident rather than preventing them from happening, and shifted responsibility away from the driver and more toward the manufacturer. Installed seatbelts became mandatory in all passenger vehicles in 1969, which was reported to increase the number of drivers who escaped injury in an accident by 40%. Mandated by an NHTSA standard for the 1973 model year, American cars featured massive garish safety bumpers, which were to prevent damage to critical safety components like headlights in the event of a low-speed collision. Check out the diving boards at either end of a US market Mercedes SL compared to the lack of visual heft on its Euro cousin. The standard fundamentally altered automotive design in the 1970s and robbed the US market of the cleaner lines of cars bound for Europe. One less visible crashworthy tech is the inclusion of crumple zones at the front and rear of a vehicle. With crumple zones, manufacturers intend to distribute the force of impact around the outside of the vehicle rather than letting them encroach on the passenger cell. Detailed here, the Saab 9000 uses stronger construction for its passenger cell, seen in red, compared to the deformable front and rear sections shown in yellow. Unfortunately, even the strongest safety cell cannot protect you from every accident. After an inebriated driver took the life of her teenage daughter, and that driver received a light sentence congruent with the low driver responsibility of the era, Candace Lightner founded Mothers Against Drunk Driving in 1980. She sought to fight against the imbalance of responsibility between driver and manufacturer through education and enforcement. MAD signaled another shift from designing out the risk associated with the so-called nut behind the wheel to acknowledging that crashworthiness alone cannot negate the inherent danger that comes with the reality of reckless and inebriated drivers. This new movement combined the driver responsibility values of the early 20th century with the crashworthiness of the 1960s and 70s and resulted in the safety systems we see in automobiles today. Automobiles like this 2018 Mercedes-Benz E-Class, which received a 5-star crash test rating from the NHTSA. Modern safety systems embody the idea of responsible drivers utilizing the safety systems provided for them by the manufacturer, though the industry is showing an upward trend in the use of passive safety measures. The new E-Class is a great example of both, offering active safety features like blind spot monitoring and a forward collision warning system, while also showcasing the future of automotive safety by combining lane keep assist, radar cruise control, and a crash imminent braking system to allow the driver to cruise along hands-free for up to 60 seconds. It's possible that the next era of automotive safety, which we appear to be overlapping with in 2018, may abandon the notion of driver responsibility in favor of automation and ignore the lessons learned from Candace Lightner in 1980. Mercedes-Benz itself has stated that it will take full responsibility for any collision resulting from its autonomous systems, and the rest of the industry may follow suit. I just hope it doesn't take more casualties to make the next change.